The event brings together leading AI firms, political leaders, civil society groups, researchers and experts to discuss the risks posed by AI and how they can be addressed through international coordinated action.
Right now, we don't have a shared understanding of the risks that we face. And without that, we can't hope to work together to actually address them. That's why we'll push hard to agree the first ever international statement about the nature of these risks.
AI has already helped to automate many mundane and complicated tasks. There are two prominent aspects. Conversational AI technology engages directly with the user, much like a discussion, and is used in chatbots, messaging apps, and virtual assistants. There's also generative AI. It creates entirely new content using deep machine learning algorithms based on existing data sets, producing text, images, video, and audio. Then there's the emerging frontier technology.
It enables us to do a lot of really cool things, but it also enables risks. And so especially these most powerful models trained on billion-dollar compute, these are the ones where we need to really worry about potential risks and also take steps to regulate them. Whereas other less powerful models, by regulating them, we would stifle research and competition.
The AI Safety Summit is taking place at Bletchley Park, north of London. During World War II, it hosted code breakers, leading to the creation of some of the first computers and theories on artificial intelligence.
The first computer used here is called Colossus. What the codebreakers realise is that they can modify the way the machine runs to do different tasks, and that's when we make the step into something that's identifiable as a computer. People like Jack Good, Donald Mickey, Alan Turing. His Turing test is an idea that if you have a machine that can think, an artificial intelligence, and you place that in a closed room where the human can't see whether they're talking to a machine or another person. If the computer is able to pass itself off effectively as a human being and the observer can't tell the difference, then it's passed the Turing test. And then you'll know that it's a true artificial intelligence.
More than 100 officials from 28 countries will be there, including X and Tesla owner Elon Musk, along with representatives from Google, OpenAI and Meta. The US Vice President Kamala Harris will speak at the event. It takes place a day after President Joe Biden signed an executive order to reduce the risk of AI on consumers, workers, minority groups and national security. And next week, G7 countries are also expected to agree on a code of conduct for firms developing AI systems. Many technology leaders agree that without controls, the tech could one day endanger humanity.
There is some chance that above zero that AI will kill us all. I think it's low, but there's some chance. I think we should also consider the fragility of human civilization. And if you study history, I think you realize that there's a rise and fall to every civilization. Every civilization has sort of a lifespan.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined by futurist Dr. Catherine Ball. Catherine Ball, thank you so much for being here. What can this summit in the UK achieve? We heard there from Elon Musk. Famously, earlier this year, he was one of those tech leaders to sign that letter warning against AI in general.
I think the UK is using this as a very savvy political potential swan song here for Rishi Sunak. So there is a geopolitical role that the UK are wanting to play here. Effectively, they're wanting to create a version of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and have an intergovernmental panel on the scaling of artificial intelligence. When he talks about having international statements with all of our friends and allies working in this space, that is kind of a political mast lead for the UK really positioning themselves as a neutral global player between the power blocks of, say, the US, China and the European Union. So very clever play on Rishi Sunak here to get everyone together at Bletchley Park.
So some big ambitions there, but will whatever comes out of this summit have more teeth than, say, the US President Joe Biden's executive order from yesterday?
Well, it's interesting to watch former President Barack Obama posting about how 7 years ago he actually started these conversations with his chief science advisory bodies, and they started the precursor projects and reporting leading up to where we are today. The idea of an executive order, again, is a very strong statement from the US administration that, OK, we've watched this grow over the last few years. We're seeing it now scale in an exponential way that we haven't done before. It's time for us to draw a line in the sand, get everyone together, and let's talk about the good, the bad and the ugly, about where this is going. The big red flag for me on all of this, though, is when we look at those very small technologies that don't even exist yet, and we start talking about all the worst case scenarios when we actually ignore some of the more pernicious issues we have to worry around: disinformation, misinformation, racism and bias that we already have on the internet in general, and therefore we already have in some of these initial AI programs.
So talk me through that a little bit more, the risks versus the opportunities when it comes to artificial intelligence.
Well, like every technology, there are going to be amazing things that we can do with it. So imagine that, you're going for a mammogram and your breast cancer is picked up by an AI that's working in partnership with a doctor. That means that the doctors will be able to use these tools to reduce fatigue and have better accuracy when it comes to scanning and testing. Who wouldn't want that? Amazing technology. Then when we look at teachers, for example, if I said to the average teacher, I can reduce your working week by 5 hours a week, so you can go ahead and retrain or look at different things you might want to work on, what teacher wouldn't want that in terms of assistance around lesson planning and reporting? And we've seen a lot of people in the education sector, sort of half of them go, ooh, AI, I'm not sure what it's going to mean, and the other half going, hang on, let's take advantage of this and see what this is as a tool that we can use to make our lives less stressful and get the work done that we need doing. Then you obviously, I suppose it's like the new uranium, 1 minute you've got radiotherapies and wonderful technologies that will come from that, and then on the other side you've got the nuclear bombs, the potentials of AI to cause huge terrorism and awful weaponry and various things. Those risks have always been present. Those races, those cold wars we have with those technologies have already existed for a long time. And if we think about AI, it's nearly 100 years old in terms of a construct. It's a form of mathematics. The term artificial intelligence for me is a bit of a misnomer. It's not particularly artificial. There are lots of humans working inside it, and sometimes it's not particularly intelligent, and it needs humans to actually verify. And I think that might be one of the words of the year this year, actually, Karina, is verified. How do we verify the information that's coming out? But for Australia and for our current geopolitical climate, disinformation, misinformation and bias are probably the most clear and present dangers for us with regards to scaling of AI.
So when you talk about verification, one of the specifics of the Biden executive order is that AI content be watermarked. Is that a good thing, and how would it work?
Got to remember, for every technology, the ecosystem that exists, there's an anti-tech ecosystem that exists. So for every tech, there's an anti-tech tech. And so we've already had people like our wonderful e-safety commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, put calls out around this from a child safety perspective. For a start, AI is already regulated. I don't want people to feel like there's a vacuum around this. And in fact, the UK positioned this as a place for innovation around businesses creating opportunities for how do we watermark, how do we verify that, how do we ban certain things, and who actually legally is responsible for child safety, public safety, and some of the more nefarious uses of deepfake technology, of which 80% is pornography. How do we protect children and educate teenagers and ourselves about the risks of the more nefarious use cases of some of that technology? I trust that we will find a way where verification will become standardized, and it will be a race, constant race, as it is with a lot of new and emerging technologies, to stay ahead.